Hi, I'm Joe Witkowski. In this video, I'm going to show you the easiest way to patch a hole in drywall. And that's coming up next. I want to show you how to easily patch a hole in drywall. I set up a little display here. We put a hole in the drywall. Here's a little patch. Now, there's several ways you can do this. You can use some backing. You can cover the hole with mesh tape, put a few layers of drywall on or mud on there. Not the best way. Some people fill it with paper. Not a good way to do that. The way I'm going to show you two ways. I'm going to show you with putting a piece of wood backing on. I'm not going to do the taping afterwards. Then I'm going to show you how to do another way to do it, where you won't need any screws, you won't need a drill. Just maybe need a jab saw, your taping knives, some taping compound, and you'll need a piece of drywall. You can get a small cut-off piece or a damaged piece from one of the big box stores. They'll have a spare piece. You don't have to buy a full sheet for just a little piece, or maybe somebody has got a piece. Either way, you'll need a small piece of drywall, probably a 12 by 12 or 12 inch by 12 inch. And I'm going to show you how to get this result. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make the hole bigger and square. Okay. Another way you can do it is, go from stud to stud. Cut a bigger patch in. That's a bit more difficult. What we're going to do is we're going to make this hole a square hole. We're going to make it it's a little bit bigger than 2 inches, so we're going to make it a 3 inch. 3 inch wide hole, 3 inches high. All right, we're gonna on the side here. Try to make it as square as you can. Makes it easier when you're cutting the patch. All right, we're about almost 3 inches wide. We'll go with a 3 inch. Go with a 3 by 3 hole. Okay. All right, we're going to use our jab saw. Make the hole square. Okay. All right, now we've got our hole cut out. Okay, I want to show you the one way to do this first. However, it's not the easiest. It requires a piece of wood, some drywall screws, obviously your drywall. For this way, you're going to cut out a 3 by 3 patch. Okay, but you're going to need to stick a piece of wood behind there as a piece of backing. Now, you only have so much space in between your wall. Okay. All right, what you're going to want to do is put a screw on the piece of wood so you can hold on to it. So you can fish it behind the wall. There's your screw. Hold on to that. And I put it in the center. You're going to want to move it over. Off center. Okay. What you're going to do is fish it behind and hold it in place with the screw. It's a little bit more difficult. Okay, and then you put a screw in. place. Okay, I like to use a coarse screw for this, coarse thread compared to a fine thread. I started using a fine thread and it wouldn't grab it all the way, so I'm going to go back to a coarse thread screw. Remember, you got to sink the screw enough so you can tape it. Okay. All right, and then you take this screw out. If it doesn't fit all the way, this one's not fitting quite in there, so we're going to shave the back a little bit on an angle. Cut some of it off. Now it fits, and you would put in a screw in the middle. And there you go. And then you would just tape it off and finish it like you would anything else. Okay, so that's one way to show you. That's one way to do it with a piece of board. Again, you have to have a piece of wood. You have to have some screws. Now I want to show you how to do it with just a piece of drywall. No screws. Take this apart. And it's 3-inch by 3-inch hole. All right, now we need to cut our patch. Okay, we're going to cut that out of a piece of drywall. So you need to have an extra small piece of drywall on hand, whether you have a 1/2 inch. If you have a 1/2 inch drywall, you can use 1/2 inch or 5/8. Better to have the thickness of the drywall that you already have. And we're going to make this patch. When we make it, we're going to make it 1 inch bigger on each side. And I'll show you why when we cut our patch. So all the way around. So we need to make a 5 by 5 cutout on our piece of drywall. So we need a 5-inch by 5-inch square for a 3-inch hole. Okay, for this part, I'm going to use a marker instead of pencil, only for the fact that you can see what I'm marking. You do not want to use marker on drywall. It'll bleed through your paint. You'll never get it out. You'll have to seal it. So just for the purposes of the video, I'm going to use a marker. Okay. Now we said we need a 5 by 5 piece of drywall. Okay. Use our blade here for a straight edge. I will cut that. Doesn't have to be exactly 5 by 5, but pretty close. Cut the back. Put this to the side. Now we're going to measure 1 inch on the side, off of each side. Okay, the first two sides we're going to go 1 inch and 1 inch. I'm going to draw our line. Okay, draw our line here. Now, our hole is 3 inches. We want to leave a little bit of space. So I'm going to pull from, we'll go the 3-inch mark. We're going to make it a hair smaller than the hole so it fits into the hole we have to patch. So I'm going to make this 2 7/8. 2 7/8. Same with the other side. 2 7/8. 2 7/8. Draw our connector lines. Okay. Now we want to score. We're going to do this from the back, not the front. We're going to score our line. Then we're going to scrape this, cut this back. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to score on this line. And then score on all 4 sides. Okay. Now we're going to snap these. Okay. And we're going to peel it off the face. Okay. There's our tape. Snap this. Be careful not to peel it from the face of our patch. Okay. Snap that. Okay. So that's what you have. Discard these pieces. And what you have, okay, now we have our patch. All right. That's why you want to be careful not to peel this from our patch. Okay. And that's why you need it to be a little smaller. You need it to fit our patchwork. This is going to act as our taping, our tape. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and see if it fits in the hole. And then I'll show you how to mud it up. Okay, now we take our patch, make sure it fits in the hole. If it is a little too big, well, then all you got to do is shave out the hole a little bit bigger. So, okay, and there's going to be our patch. Okay, and we're going to be careful not to tear that. And we're going to mud this side here, and then we're going to finish taping this patch. Okay, so now I've mixed up a batch of mud. I'm going to use a quick setting compound. You don't have to. Makes things go quicker. If you got one little hole, you can easily patch this within a couple of hours and get it ready for paint the same day if you get the setting type. If you're not too used to working with 20-minute set, you can use a 45-minute set compound and use a hair dryer. That'll give you plenty enough time. The hair dryer will help it dry. Okay, so I've made it the consistency of pudding. You don't want it too wet, but you don't want it too thick, because when you're putting the mud on your patch, you don't want to peel this paper off. So what we're going to do is we're going to really butter this up here on the edges. Okay. Nice coat of that on there. The reason for that being is we want this to kind of weld itself to the drywall. Okay, so if you put a nice amount on there, it's going to blend in with this drywall and actually hold the patch, and then this paper is going to finish the edges. So now we're going to squeeze it in there. Careful not to push the paper off. Take our taping knife and start to squeeze some of the mud out so we can push it in some more. You want to make it flush. If it pushes in a little farther, not a big deal. And we're going to squeeze the tape out, or the mud, from behind the paper. Okay. Try not to put any pressure on there. You don't want to rip the patch from the paper. Use a little bit bigger taping knife. Okay. There's your patch. Okay. Now you can put the first coat on. Again, don't put too much pressure on there because you don't want to separate the patch. So I'm going to put a layer of mud right over that. You don't want a whole bunch on there. Just a nice coat to cover everything. Okay. Okay, I should let that alone. I'm going to let that set. There we go. We'll come back and put another coat on. And just keep putting thin coats on until you get it the way you want it. You don't want to sand forever. So just put a few thin coats on, and when you get it the way you want it, then it'll be ready for painting. So we'll come back when this is dry, and we'll put a finished coat on, or second coat, and we'll see if we need a third coat or not. All right, we're ready to put on our second coat. And my first coat, I used a quick setting compound. And what's nice about a quick setting compound is you don't have to let it to be 100% dry to put on the second coat. All it has to do is be pretty much stiffened up. It's still a little wet, but it's still dry enough to put on our second coat. There's a few high spots here. We're not going to sand. We're just going to shave them off lightly. Shave off the high spots with your knife so you don't get them in your second coat. Okay, and now you can kind of see the patch and how it's working out. We'll put our second coat on. Again, this is my, I'm using 90 minute here. Again, you want to feather it in and go wider than your actual patch. Got a few pieces of junk in there. Get that out. Again, I'm lifting up one side of the taping knife to get the lines out. We're just going to smooth it out. Thinner coats, the better. You're not going to get it all done in one coat. So it's better to put that on, let it dry. Let this one dry, and then we'll put our final coat on. And then we'll sand it. Now what's nice about, like I said earlier, you don't have to have it 100% dry, so we're going to take, to speed this up a little bit, we're going to take our hair dryer. Because we have a nice thin coat on there, this should dry up a lot quicker. Okay, we're ready for our third and final coat. And the elapsed time on that, it took me 6 minutes to dry that with a hair dryer, and that was with a 90-minute set. So you could easily get this done within an hour, complete, ready to paint, if you use a fast-setting compound and a hair dryer. Okay, so now we're going to put our third coat on. And because I used a 90-minute set, our third coat, I don't have to mix up another batch because it's still workable. Let me get my water blade. Should have just enough for the last coat. And I'm going wider than the patch. That's so in the daylight, sun coming through the window or something, you don't see it on your, see it in the wall and the paint. Do that one. Blend that in. Go over it nice and light. And now, won't have too much to sand. All we'll have to do is feather those edges in. Okay, you can see how smooth that is. That's the last coat. We'll wait for that to dry. I'm going to throw the hair dryer on it again and sand it down for you. That's a finished coat. You can't even see where the patch was. Now I'm going to go in the back. Here, I'll show you how this came together. You see how the patch, where it oozed out right here. Oozed out at the top, and there's some areas in here. That's what's keeping the patch together. Everything's kind of welded together, and that's what holds that patch into place really well. Just wanted you to see that from behind. Okay. Now remember, here's one little thing I want to tell you. I did this on a fresh piece of drywall. Your drying time is going to be a lot higher on a painted surface because the paint isn't going to absorb the water like a new piece of drywall will. The drywall's got paper, and the gypsum inside the drywall is going to suck all the water out, so it is going to dry a lot quicker than it is on paint. So it will take a little bit longer on a painted surface, but with a hair dryer it should speed things up. Okay, I'm back, and it took about 15 minutes to get this dry with the hair dryer. And now we're going to sand. On something this small, I prefer to use a sanding sponge. It's like a medium grit sanding sponge. You can use the sandpaper if you want, but I find it better to feather in the drywall and the compound with a sponge, just my preference. And all you have to do is really go around the edges. You'll see it starting to feather in. And I just told a big lie. There's a few spots that aren't totally dry yet. We're going to hit that with the hair dryer one more time. It appears dry, but all right, took a few more minutes to get that. Like I say, sanding sponge. Works good, just to feather it in. You can also use your a sanding block. If you are going to use a sanding block with sandpaper, use a 100 grit or a 120 grit paper. 80 grit leaves lines, which is not the end of the world if it leaves lines. Just use a high hiding primer to fill in the scratch marks. That works just fine. Not much to sand. You put it on smooth enough. Just feather all the edges. You see anything that needs a light coat again? There's any air holes or dimples. Mix up a little light thin batch taping compound, and you're done. And you can see how smooth that came out. It's feathered in. Stand back. There's a little damp spot in here yet, where the patch was, but it is sanded, ready for paint. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, visit my website at www.doityourselfwithjoe.com, where you'll find an archive of all my videos. Also, click the subscribe button to keep up to date with future videos. And don't forget to click the thumbs up and leave a comment below to let me know what you think or if there's something I can help you with.